Welcome, Planet Radio. We are back with little Dave. We are post Arnold. And dear God, what a show. Like you and I were just talking before we got on, like that if you enjoy bodybuilding, that top six was a great group. And if I'm speaking specifically about men's open, um, and I think the takeaway, or at least for me on my perspective, that's what I text you, like conditioning wins.
Yeah.
And I know that after the Olympia, a lot of the talk was like big and round and shape and a transition of changing of the guard of how shows are going to be judged. And I can tell you this, like out of all the shows I saw last year in person and on the internet, and then to start the season with Derek winning, it's because he was the most peeled. And to me, the lesson is for everyone who's dieting right now or finishing up their all season to start a prep, take away what won because Samson and Andrew were by far the biggest on the stage, but the most complete and the most shredded in terms of if we're thinking about muscularity, symmetry, shape, condition. But that's what I say when I mean balance. Like the balance of those is what wins. So
Mhm.
is that what your takeaway was, or do you have something different that you saw as a whole?
I mean, that was basically it. I mean, that's why Derek was winning so many shots is he was, nailed. He didn't have soft body parts,
No, no.
and his posing was flawless.
Yes.
Derek is a fantastic poser, and then that's all like he was much better than the Olympia.
Oh, hands down. Yeah, agreed. You know, abs were better. He had chest striations, he had lines in his delts, and then he was just bananas from the back. Um,
Yeah. And
when
his
you look,
legs were definitely in and they
yes,
weren't small.
they were not small, and I think they were posed better.
Yeah.
Um, so when you factor in what appears to be a better prep, a better peak, and then superior posing, you get the victory. So, I mean, I know that a lot of people out there were saying Samson should have won from multiple sides, but man, I'm telling you, when you look at all those shots, to me, it was clear. I didn't have any doubt in both prejudging and finals. Like when I looked at all those shots in the video, like I didn't see it being anyone. I didn't see any votes for Samson personally, but
Yeah.
again, neither you or I were there, so maybe it was a little bit different in person. But I don't know. I thought Derek, that was his best look. He was peaked perfectly and
Yeah.
he prepped. I think that's the bigger thing is like, I know everyone talks about peaking. I think that was probably a better prep based upon what I heard him talk about the different strategies Chris used. And like, I've always liked Aceto's mindset and thought towards prep. Like, he jokes about how dumb he is, how he
Yeah.
doesn't use science, how, he flies in the face of everything that's supposed to be done. And maybe it's because the era I grew up in of him prepping Jay all those years and all the champions he's worked with.
Yeah.
But to me, it was nice to see that I think a lot of times Hani gets like he's the best. There's no doubt. Well, I think Chris put some doubt in people's mind this weekend. I mean, he
Yeah.
had first place, third place, and sixth place in open, and then
Yeah.
he had the men's physique overall winner by a long shot. So, and then I think I know he prepped somebody in classic. I can't remember where they placed. Uh,
Yeah.
but dear God, like he definitely proved the eye for bodybuilding. And to me, I hope that little bit of swing will bring the light to bodybuilding of this right here plays such an incredible role the final week. I mean, he was talking about how he got to the Arnold 9 days out to help Andrew because he had like something like a 38-hour flight to get here. And then he was like, every 3 hours, I was with every guy that I was with. And it's like that's top level coaching.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was an incredible show. I was pretty pumped. 'Cause, sometimes the Arnold doesn't get always the greatest turnout as opposed to Olympia. So it's like you go like Olympia, which is the Super Bowl, and then it's kind of like can be a letdown because it's like two or three guys. But man, with that $500,000 prize,
Oh yeah,
what I would have, man, I would have loved to seen Hottie in that mix. Like that would have been fun to see.
that would have been great.
Yeah, yeah. Any other standout? I mean, I think Brandon Curry gets a huge mention for how much improvement he's had.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
that was a great look.
yeah, that was the best Brandon I've seen in a while.
Yeah, since he won the Olympia, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you made that post, or maybe you just reshared it about everyone's age.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah. We
insane.
shared that from Tommy Styles.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that one's, I think, I mean, I made my own comment after the fact on it, but like, yeah, everybody's like 40. Derek's 31, but Derek is also, I mean, he went pro when he was 20, 4, like that's still 7 years of just straight bodybuilding.
Yes. Yep. And I mean, what's wild, I mean, you and I appreciate the fact that you win the USA's overall at 24.
Yeah.
And then you go right into the heart of 212, does well, wins, goes open, wins. Like,
Yeah.
I think everyone always talks about like genetic anomalies or, he is definitely an outlier. That is not normal.
Yeah.
And I mean, the amount of muscle he is packed onto that frame. I mean, I always love seeing those comparisons where it's like him as a middleweight at nationals compared to like now. And it's like, dear God, results are not typical.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, I think that, if you look at all the placings and how everyone came in, to me, like it kind of proved the fact that, as you said, with that age thing, it's like time and muscle, man. Like it just counts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think what's also really interesting about is when someone does well or has a group of guys that do well. This isn't talked about a lot, but how coaches hierarchy is all based upon hype, right? Like everyone came off the Olympia and hired Stefan.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's the greatest. And the couple years before, it's like everyone I think tried to get with Hani who could because he had Derek, he had Hottie, he had Chris Bumstead. And I mean, if you know his history, which I think most of current fans of bodybuilding forget, like all the great champions that Hani's worked with, it's like the carousel of that. And then I know when Samson won, everyone was trying to get with his wife. I'm going to be curious. I bet you Chris Aceto's phone is going wild right now for getting new client intakes.
Yeah. No joke.
So,
I
because
mean, that's always an interesting one to see. I mean, like, I honestly don't understand the giant amount of coach hopping in the pro league because it's just like, well, I mean, in Derek's case, like, if he has a terrible prep with someone, right? It's like, okay, he knows that. Okay, cool. That's a good time to switch. But like, if what you're doing is working, why fuck around with it?
agreed.
And that
Yes.
one always gets me. It's just like, are you? I mean, from every point, from the Olympia guys to the local NPC guys, like the ones who jump around with coaches aren't usually the ones winning a ton.
No, no.
Unless it's coming from like a bad experience.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, your coach didn't respond to you for a month. Okay, yeah, obviously fucking switch coaches.
Right. Yeah.
But like your coach you got an overall and you improved since last year. It's like, why the fuck would you switch coaches?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, is this guy gonna have you eat? Is he promising you, cinnamon rolls every other week? Like, what do you think this is? You're not gonna have to diet. You're not gonna have to do cardio. That shit drives me. I absolutely love it when people are like, "Oh man, my carbs didn't go below 600 on," it's like, okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. Were you in shape?
Right.
One, and how did you look on stage?
Right. Yeah.
Those things are, it happens all the time where coaches will promise, everything to a client, and then none of that happens. And it's like, no, that's probably why you're losing people every fucking year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my clients we don't ever do over an hour of cardio. I never take no one's carbs to zero. No one has to suffer for a prep. It's like every single one of their athletes is soft and watery on stage. It's like, oh, good, that's great.
Right. That's one of the toughest questions I get when I know nobody says when someone's picking my brain to see if they want to work with me. What's your style? I don't know. Whatever is required. Well, what does that mean? Well, we either have to get all the fat off and keep the most amount of muscle. So whatever that takes. Well,
Yeah,
what do you normally lean towards? Whatever's working. Like,
yeah. There's no rules here.
no, like
Like,
for example, I tend to not like diuretics. Do I 100% of the time don't use any with people? No. For the most people, I don't use any. But there are some scenarios where I need it. Like, I very rarely like to pull all water out. Well, occasionally I have to. Like, do I like taking people's carbs to zero? No. But will I? Yes. Do I like putting people at 2 hours of cardio? No. But do I do it if I have to? Yes. Like,
yeah,
there are things I don't like giving people cheat meals. Sometimes it's required. Like, and I think that's what in that coaching world is always so interesting is I think everyone believes that there's some secret that fill in the blank coach has that no one else does. And
yeah,
the longer I do this, the longer I believe that if your personalities mesh and you believe that that coach is doing everything in his power to make your best, that's the winning recipe,
yeah,
you know? Because you and I, for example, I could tell you to eat dirt, you'd say yes. I could tell you to eat Five Guys every night, and you'd say yes. It's the belief that I have in you to execute the plan, and your belief that I'm giving you what I feel is the best in that singular moment.
yep,
And the outcome tends to be favorable when that happens. Can I affect things like you tearing a hamstring? No. Can I affect things of, if you have a family member or a loved one or a friend die? Fuck no, I can't affect that. We have to manage that situation in the moment and move forward. It doesn't mean that our coaching dynamic is off. It just means the life happened.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly.
I can't help that maybe one year you react weird to a food or a drug, like, or your body is non-responsive. Why? I don't fucking know. Let's get some blood work and find out. Like,
Yep,
but if we do our job and homework and you're open and honest with me, typically we can get to the bottom of things. I,
yeah,
Coaching change to me needs to happen for two reasons. One, as you said, a bad experience, and that could be lack of attention to detail. That could be not being responsive, not paying attention to the details. Another one could be you lose faith in your current coach,
yeah.
and that could personally just not be the coach's fault. It could just be that's where your mind's at, and if your mind's there, by all means, step away.
Broke. Yeah. Well, I mean, you also get the clients who, you give them the plan and they fall at 50%,
Correct. Yes.
and it's just like you lose faith in them.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, why the fuck am I going to put effort towards this?
Yep.
That's
Agreed.
how coaches work. If you give 50% effort, your coach is not going to give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
Like that one's hilarious to me when it comes to people in prep or even lifestyle people who like, okay, cool. Well, and they're not looking for change.
Yes.
They're like, hey, I want a special diet, but I won't follow,
No.
but I don't understand why I'm not making changes. It's like, you're fucking retarded.
Yes. Yep.
And it's even better with prep because it's like, all right, you tell them to do one thing, and they're like, oh, he said add 30 grams of, 112 grams of rice to meals 3 and 4. I actually added a Five Guys burger because that's the same fucking thing, right?
Right.
It's like, oh my God.
Angel and I were watching a show. It's called White Lotus on HBO. And this dude is sitting at his table and complaining about the menu. And his girlfriend looks at him and she says, "This is classic you. You're playing the victim on a decision you made." And I was like, I am fucking writing that down. She's like, you chose to come here and now you're going to be a victim of the very menu they have online. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, think about how many times we've, cut people's carbs or took their cardio up and like, fuck me. Like, hold on. You came to me to get shredded. What do you think I was gonna do?
Right.
Like, oh, like that to me is such an interesting scenario of, you say you want X, and then I present you with the plan and the work that's going to require you to get to the goal, and you're like, this sucks. No shit. It's like signing up for a 5K and being like, damn, I got to run 3 miles. Yes. What
Yeah.
do you think is going to happen?
Right. Yeah. I don't get to ride a scooter for this
Right.
shit.
Right. Do I get an e-bike? No, fuck off. Yeah, man. And the reason I think I get so fired up about that shit is it's because like the work to me is it's like the fun part of this mess. Like the stage and the glaze and the posing trunks, like that's fucking pointless. Like how far can we push our brain to get to a spot to where we enjoy this? And
Yeah.
I think the sad thing is when other people on the outside may hear you say like, "Oh, you enjoy those hard sets or the cardio or the being hungry or being stuffed, whatever side of the coin you're on," and it's like, hell yeah! Like I know what I signed up for when I said I want to be a competitive bodybuilder. I I would want and expect nothing less. It's the reason we're able to look different than 99% of the population is because we're willing to do something they aren't.
Yeah.
And when you wrap your mind around that, it's like, okay, cool. And it's like you said, like there are points of your prep where on paper look easy. There are
Yeah.
probably points of your all season that look easy, and people are like, man, like that's nothing, or that's I could do that. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't do the X amount of year, the decade plus of work to get to this point.
Hmm.
You know? Or I think a lot of times people understand, like, I have to get your food low to a point to where your body's so hyper responsive, then we can add food. And it's like, how many nights did you go to bed ravenous? Or
Hmm.
did you wake up in the middle of the night, take a piss, and you're like, God, I could go in there and I could smash chicken and rice or fucking donuts right now. And you choose to lay your ass back down to bed after you have a couple mouthfuls of water. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I think with coaching and being a client, it's all about like, and it's as you said, the effort you put in is the effort I tend to reciprocate because early on in my career of personal training, I would always get so frustrated and I'd look at my clients and I would say, because I didn't know any other way to other than be honest, but it's like, why am I putting more effort than you are? And
Yeah.
listen, some people fucking hated that shit. Like, I build you these plans, I give you a meal plan, I give you cardio to do, like, and you just fucking shit on it. Like you come and train hard with me 2 days a week, but then you aren't doing any of the other stuff I'm asking you outside of that. And then you
Yeah.
look at me when it's time for an assessment in 2 weeks and you say, why didn't I lose more body fat?
Yeah. It blows my mind. Like it happens at all. Like, actually, I just saw a clip on Instagram this morning when I was eating breakfast, and it was like the my 600 pound life.
Oh, right. Yes.
And there's this girl, she's in there, and he's like, yeah. So the scale says nothing's changed since last time. He's like, do you have the nutrition plan I sent you? And she's like, oh, I lost it. And he's like, you could have texted me. He's like, did you lose the email I sent? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, why didn't you call me? She's like, I didn't know where to call you. And he's like, so what have you been doing for the last 2 months?
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't understand why I didn't lose any weight. He's like, because you lost the fucking plan.
Right.
That one old doctor, whatever he is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what is he? They call him Dr. Now, I think, maybe like Dr.
Yeah.
Nazario, or I can't remember his exact name. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. Yeah. And I love his. Uh, there was a point where I was addicted to that show and I watched every episode where, he takes those people and puts them on like protein only. And they're like, this is all I get. And he's like, you've lived in excess your entire fucking life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my favorite one is like, she's like, well, what if I'm malnourished? And he's like, you won't be malnourished for like 4 years.
Right. Yeah. 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 Like I love the just brutal honesty he hits with those people with. And I'm sure he's so jaded because he probably, of the people he sees and helps, probably the success rate is, I would assume, like probably a third or less. So he probably is
Yeah,
like 33%. And that used to be a running joke I used to have with all my trainers. I'm like, man, if you are operating in a corporate gym and you're getting 50% client rate of success, you're winning. Um, and that's sad to say out loud,
yeah,
because personal training isn't cheap. And I would always be amazed that people would come in and write me checks for over to 2,500 bucks, $3,500, and then just bullshit. I'm like, man, I don't think I'll ever get to a spot in my life where I like to waste money that much.
no,
No, no. So yeah, I don't know what led us down that path of ranting, but yeah,
yeah,
that. I do have an amendment from the last show. I have to eat shit because Sam Sulek turned pro.
yeah,
And, I'm a big I told you so guy. And when I'm wrong, I have to admit that as well. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, he won. Good for him.
Well,
He
now the
was
question is he going to compete as the pro
right.
in anytime soon, or is this going to be a never happening story?
Right, right. Yeah.
That's what I. That's one thing I've never understood about, like, I mean, the pro card thing is I can't tell you how many people go get a pro card and that's the end of their story with bodybuilding.
Yes. Yep.
It's like, uh, okay, like, why'd we do this? You could have done anything else. Like,
Yeah. Agreed.
but we'll see.
I mean, I
I,
can tell you
I
this.
know
He was,
Sam's a fan of bodybuilding,
yes. Yeah.
so I mean, it will be cool to see if he actually does something with it.
Yeah. I can tell you this. He definitely worked his ass off and either fixed the peak and got shredded in between the two.
Hmm.
That was definitely way better condition and peaking of the
Yeah,
show.
and he fixed his posing too.
Yes. Yeah. So hats off to him. Turning pro at the Arnold. That's a cool statement to be able to say you won the overall there. So I mean, I still stick with what I say. Like, I think he's a bodybuilder. Um,
Yeah,
I know people keep posing the comparison of like Arnold, him, and Chris Bumstead hitting that like twisting back shot. And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
my favorite ones are when they compare him to Chris Bumstead, and they're like, Chris is like, you can see his head's like way smaller,
yeah, right.
like because
Yeah,
they've like zoomed him out so far, so they're the same size, and he's
right,
like, look, Sam's beating him. It was like, I think you just zoom him in so they're accurate.
right. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, someone saw the show we did and like they decided to comment that, like, how dare you talk shit about Sam? He's got a third of you. Let's see, he has three times your results you've ever had in bodybuilding. And I said, let's get something like really straight here. He's taller than me, and I weigh more than him on stage. So I don't know where you're getting he has three times the results that I have. Um,
Yeah,
so
shit, dude, I weigh more than him on stage, and I'm 5'5".
right, right, right. So I think the delusion of not understanding what they're seeing in front of them. Um, you know, again, this isn't a smear of Sam by any means, but put him on the stage with Mike, those top three in the classic open pros, and you'll see the difference that you and
Yeah,
I, like, I mean, that makes a good transition. Um, I think the condition that Logan Franklin brought to classic was stupid.
that was awesome to see.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, now, sadly, he just got out-muscled,
Yeah,
in that, against Mike, but dear God, like I can't remember who I was listening to talk. They're like, we've never seen condition like that on a classic guy ever. And that's pretty fucking awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah. He looked absolutely nuts.
yeah, oh yeah. It was when Patrick Tor was posting those photos, I was like, dear God, he is fucking nasty. And I mean, I remember when he was with Milos, it was he was crazy conditioned there. So it's like clearly he has that. What we were speaking about at the beginning was, Samson and finding conditioning. Like you have to go talk to these guys in my mind and like listen to what they had to go through, both psychologically and physically to get that. Um, if that was me, man, I'm talking to Dorian, I'm talking to Ronnie, I'm talking to Phil, and I'm like, where did you guys have to go to find that level? Like, I guess that's where my brain goes. Because I saw an interview with Phil, and he was like, "Man, I've reached out to everyone in the industry, and I always tell them if you want to know what's up, like I'll jump on a call with you." And apparently, that's what Derek did, and you see the result of that shit.
Yeah,
And I mean, I know not everyone is a fan of Phil, but dear God, like that dude understands competitive bodybuilding. He understands sports in general
yeah,
and the mindset it takes to win.
yeah,
Um, if I'm Samson, man, I am picking up the phone. I'm talking to Phil. I'm like, look, where did you have to go to get that condition? Because I want to follow it.
yeah.
And I think you and I know what that takes, and it's hard to kind of put it on paper sometimes for people to understand. Like I think you and I've said it. Like there's a difference in doing cardio and getting peeled doing cardio. There's a difference in training a set and then taking it to the end. And it's the same thing with the dinner table. Like it's not fun eating fucking fishing some vegetables. It's not fun eating just fish. Like it's not fun eating just plain boring ass turkey. But sometimes that's what's required at different parts of the prep. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's my favorite part about like the honestly, I like being hungry. So I mean that gets it there, but it's also, that where you can push yourself with just going without.
Yes.
Because we all know like when it comes to dieting, like when your meal is just protein and veggies, a lot of people start adding a fuck ton of veggies.
Yes. Yep.
Because they want to feel something, or they need to have their chewing gum, or they need to have their, you know, XYZ, so they have their larger portion where what fills their stomach up. And it's like those are things you don't want to do in bodybuilding. If you're a normal person dieting, for sure, make your food voluminous.
Right.
But the last weeks of bodybuilding, you need to just suffer.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
it shouldn't be fun. And I'm not saying it's miserable, right? It's the same concept as people who run marathons.
Yes.
Like go take a gander at the last mile of a marathon, and I bet you learn a lot of fucking things.
Yes. Yeah.
You got people who just straight up walk that last bit, and you got people who are somehow finding a way to sprint.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. I can tell you this. My brother, races competitively, and he tells me how many people he blows by in the last 200 yards. And he always swears it's because of the football background we had, where it's like, all right, 200 yards and we're done. Fucking
Hmm.
empty that tank. There, leave nothing. And I think there was one time he was telling me he went from like sixth to second in the last 100 yards. And that's all heart, right?
Yeah.
That's literally just desire. Because it's like, man, after 100 yards, all I got to do, I get to I can fall on the ground and clap for an hour if I needed to. And that is, you fucking nailed that um, to the T. And
Hmm.
because it's all those little things I think that add up, right? Where I've seen people take and just spray the fuck out of a pan. Well, guess what? At a certain level, that Pam starts taking on calories.
Hmm.
And I know it may make your rice a little bit more crispy or your vegetables taste a little bit better, but man, it's what, 4 weeks? 28 days? Like, come on. Measure your fucking vegetables, measure your food, measure your rice, measure your sauce for Christ's sake. Stop adding 5 calorie sticks of gum every time you feel like something's got to go in your fucking mouth. Like,
Hmm.
I've seen people fuck their digestion with all types of drinks and sodas and shit because they're like, Chris, I'm hungry. What do I do? Be hungry.
Yep. And that's a hard concept.
Right,
You
right,
know, yeah, you're just gonna be like, all right, cool, fuck you. We're gonna be hungry. It's like you know you're not gonna die. You got a meal every 3 fucking hours.
right. Yes. Yeah. That's always the one that's hard for me. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, be hungry? Is that
Yeah.
what you do? Yeah. I just fucking be hungry, man. Well, that's not easy. No shit. Like, I mean, I think the last time you and I were in Ohio and I had that fucking shitty, stinky fish that I was eating twice a day, that isn't fun. Like, I
No.
don't look forward to that like I do, say, chicken, rice, olive oil, and an apple. Like,
Yeah.
that's the work. That's what had to be done in that fucking moment. And I'm like, okay, cool. In 2.5 hours, I get to eat some turkey. In 2.5 hours, I get to eat my pre-lift meal. Then I get to drink my intra workout. Then I get to have my post-lift meal. All shit that I look forward to. Just get through it.
Hmm.
It's. I think that's what I love and crave the most about this shit. Is it's all delayed gratification.
Yeah.
That one singular fish meal isn't getting me shredded, but if I do that 50 days in a row, it will.
Yeah.
You know, the singular cardio session isn't going to get me peeled, but 5 sessions a week at 35 minutes will. Like,
Yeah. And on the reverse, I mean, that one cardio session you did shitty doesn't do. I mean, it's probably not going to be noticeable.
yeah, you should just stay in the bed and fuck.
Even to your coach, it won't be noticeable.
Correct. Yeah.
But then one session turns into 50, and it's like, wow, man. And then all your coach increases your cardio from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and you're doing that, and you just keep getting shittier. And then all you're doing is making yourself tired by doing
Yes.
shitty ass cardio for 2 hours, while the cardio you could have been doing, you could have gotten done in 45 minutes,
Yep.
if you did it correct. But now you're just wasting your time,
Yep. Agreed.
And now since you're so stretched on time, you're like, oh man, you start rushing your workouts.
Yes.
And
Yep.
then you start cutting things from your workout. You're like, oh man, I don't have time for those RDLs after legs, And then it's like, man, I don't understand why my hamstrings don't come up on stage, and I just hold all this water and all this body fat still. It's like we all understand.
Yes. Yep.
This
Yep.
happened at 10 weeks out when you decided to, bend forward and lean on the treadmill.
Yes. Yep. You know, I know you and I have talked about this, and it's a philosophy that I live by. I'm like, you always have to pay that piper.
Yeah,
And if you cut corners at the beginning of your prep, the coach is gonna, if they're good, is gonna step on the gas pedal and crush your soul. Because that's the only way. Or
yeah,
if you could maximize every action item, the end of that prep is gonna be easier. And I know that people who haven't gone through it before don't necessarily understand that.
yeah,
It's like, well, Chris, it's just filling the. I didn't drain the fat off my beef, or I, you said 225 grams of carbs, but I made it 250. Like that little shit adds up. I think you're saying with the vegetables. I know people don't view that as a big deal, but like, there's a difference between 50 grams of peppers and 200 grams of peppers.
yeah.
You know,
Or if
and
you're eating shit like Brussels sprouts,
right, yeah,
those motherfuckers are gonna add up calories like motherfucker.
right,
Especially if you're a bikini competitor.
yes, right,
That extra 50 calories 3 times a day, 150 calories, that's your fucking deficit.
right, yeah, yep, or your entire cardio session.
Yeah.
I hope those vegetables tasted good because you just wasted an hour on the step meal. Like, I don't think people think about those things critically. They're like, oh, it's just this. And I'm thinking, I always have thought to myself, if it's something as simple as like chewing gum, look at that fucking label, man. Every time you ingest that shit, you get all those long words that I can't pronounce, plus 5 calories. So then I think to myself, well, that took my blood sugar north. Okay. So how long did it say? Let's just for easy math. Let's say my blood sugar was sitting at 90 and it took it to 106. How long did it stay at 106 and how long did it take me to get back to 90? I didn't burn fat in that window as good as I could have because I wanted to taste some sugar-free fucking watermelon. Dumb, dumb. Throw it away. I just, you know, I, I made a decision, a prep a long time ago where I was like, I'm not going to chew gum anymore. This is stupid. I
Yeah.
didn't. And like, oh,
No.
well, the guy's like, I only do it when I train. Okay.
I've always laughed at that too because I've almost always been an intra workout fan.
Yes, same.
Gum
Yep.
is the one time I'm never fucking. I don't want mint and fucking watermelon mixing,
Right, right, right,
or like blue raspberry and mint.
right, right. I've always thought this too is like I'm always scared I'm gonna suck that gum down my throat
Yeah,
when I'm gasping for air.
yeah,
Like, then what? I have 600 pounds in my back and I just suck gum down my throat. Yeah, I'm fucked.
yeah. You're gonna die.
Right. I don't want that dusty handsaw shit where it like goes into my lungs or something. No, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no. Yeah, so I think a lot of times when people are going through prep, they can't see on the other side of the microscope where it's like, this is only temporary. And soon enough, this will be over, and you will wish you did everything in your power to be your best because that stage is coming. Those photos on NPC News Online are there forever. Forever.
yep,
So, when you're making those little decisions, all those things add up. And, it's something as simple as, as you said, like, I think a lot of people miss is, when they think about their cardio and not giving max effort and how much they have to increase the cardio if they aren't giving good effort. So you could take someone who's at, say, 40 minutes 5 times a week, and you have to give them 6 sessions at 90 minutes a week or 90 minutes a session because they aren't giving the proper effort and burning the right amount of calories. And then you take that same person, you're like, hey, cool, like, are you practicing your posing? Yeah, I'm practicing it. And you watch them doing it, it's lazy. It's like, huh, I could have probably taken 30 minutes off your cardio if you practice posing hard. Well, no. So you just added 2 hours to your day of useless time because you aren't maximizing those efforts.
yeah.
Simple as that. So, yeah. Any other takeaways you had from the Arnold, or just maybe highlights that you thought were noteworthy for the listeners to take away from?
I honestly thought a lot of people did a fantastic job there.
Yeah.
Like there was no one who was like blatantly off, in my opinion.
No.
Like there was definitely degrees of on, but there wasn't like a oh he's subtly off or like something like what happened,
Right. Yeah.
and that those things are kind of in our control.
Yes.
So like make sure you take your notes during your prep if it's your first time. You know, just like I mean, hell, look at Sam. He did something. It obviously didn't fucking work. He
Mhm.
fixed it.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and that's how you get better in bodybuilding is you try it, see what happens, and then take away. Notice how there's not a study involved there. There's legitimately nothing, no study involved on, oh, what does this effect have on someone who is Sam Sulek, right? Or XYZ, right? There is just a matter of, all right, let's give it a try. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. We know what to do on both sides.
Yep. Yep.
If it works, write it down, do it again. If it doesn't work, write it down, don't do it again.
Right.
And then after years of doing that, I can promise you, you'll be a better bodybuilder.
Right. Yep.
And that doesn't just apply to competing and stage stuff. That applies to every single workout you do, every cardio session you do. Just like I was saying, like if you get off your cardio session in prep and you're like, well, I'm not tired. Why?
Right.
Or I'm not sweaty. Why?
Yeah.
What could I have done better? Did I do my cardio session immediately after eating food? Oh, okay. What that changed things. Okay, cool. That's different. How did that work? You know, maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't.
Yep.
You know, but after a while, you should have a pretty good set selection of things that work. What you should be keep doing, and you won't be hitting so many fucking pitfalls.
You can really erase a lot of just I'm going to call them bad habits by doing what you just said. Like the draping yourself on the treadmill or stairmaster is a huge one for me. That never made sense because I knew for everyone out there who is doing treadmill for cardio, I want you to do something. Walk holding on for 5 minutes and then walk without holding on for 5 minutes and see what your heart rate is. It's drastically different. it makes a difference. Stand the fuck up, pump your arms, and walk. It's as simple as that. Um, yeah, that the note taking is huge and learning from your mistakes. And then on the flip side, learning what worked. Like, man, this worked perfect. I think also staying calm, and that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Is
I
easier.
mean, like I said, like if it doesn't work, still a good thing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know it doesn't work. Like there's no reason to beat yourself up and get mad at yourself for it. You're like, okay, cool, that didn't work. You don't need to, get obsessed and do your session again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, tomorrow's a new day, let's do it better.
Yes.
And that's what makes change, you
Yes.
know? And that succession of things leads you to making better progress long term.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that you and I do really well. If we go to the gym and have a session that just blows the muscle up, strength improving, the look is better, we'll jot that down either on paper or in our head. Like, man, that slight incline dumbbell press is fucking working right now. Like, maximize it. Or, if I do a stretch movement after a row movement, it feels incredible. My back really opens up. I'm able to get good range of motion on my third exercise. Like, those little notes add up over a long time. And again, if you just pay attention, that's huge.
Yeah.
I think to wrap up for me, I think something that, I spoke about coaches and people, bandwagoning things. I think something cool that I found was that you're probably it was probably like right around the time where you were getting hardcore into bodybuilding that everyone said like Kuwait had the magics, all the secrets.
Yeah.
And Brandon Curry proved this weekend that there is no magic in Kuwait. None, zero. Because he prepped with Justin Harris and stayed home. And I think that was one of his best looks since he won the Olympia.
Yeah.
And, if you guys are curious what he did, there's a good podcast on Think Big Bodybuilding with the guys and Justin Harris. And they really pick his brain. And he's like, man, I just made him suffer. And he's like, Brandon was known for voluminous training. He said, oh, yeah, I had him rowing the 200-pound dumbbells at 3 weeks out. And, it's shit that you and I bang on. The basics always work.
Yeah.
You can't fucking cheat hard work. And when you're kicking cardio in the teeth, you're eating low food, and you are lifting heavy weights, good shit tends to happen no matter what level you're at. The top of the Arnold, the top five in the Arnold, or you're the top three at a regional show. Those three things matter.
Mhm.
So I think that was my takeaway is that don't get complacent. And sometimes, you can fall into a trap of, this is the only way to do it. And I'm just on a decline. I'm in my 40s now. I'm not going to get better. Well, what if you got back to some stuff that made you feel uncomfortable again?
Yeah.
That because I mean, I think he admitted to Justin, like he's like, man, I hadn't been pushed that hard in a long time at the end. And
Yeah.
something else that I think was a huge takeaway that I know you'll appreciate if you listen to that podcast is he said Brandon didn't complain once. He said, Justin said, I had to ask him multiple times, are you doing all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm doing what I asked for. And he's like, I almost didn't know if he was following the plan to the T at first because he's like, this should suck and he should be complaining. And he didn't. So, a wise lesson to everyone. Yeah. I've made you do things that are fucking stupid hard and you just ate it up. That's what he wants me to do. That's what I'm gonna do. It's as,
Yeah.
e- it's as easy as that. And what's really funny is I remember that prep that I had with Matt, and he's like, how's everything going, man? I'm like, it's going well. And he's like, I'm kicking you in the fucking teeth. I'm like, yeah, that's what I asked for. And he's like, all right, cool. You and I will get along really well. Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit. I didn't hire you to be my friend, motherfucker. I
Yeah.
hired you to get me fucking peeled. And that's what he did.
Yeah. Exactly.
Remember that when you're hiring a coach. They aren't there to be your cheerleader. They aren't there to be your friend. That you aren't going to go have dinner together and stupid shit. You hired him for a reason. And I don't know what that reason is. Whatever your goals are is your reason. And be a slave to that shit. And he'll give you his best effort. You'll give him yours. And at the end of the day, you'll create something cool together.
Yeah.
And like if you never turn pro, we will have created something fucking cool.
Yeah,
Either way.
very true.
None of that shit matters, man. It's been a fun ride in bodybuilding, and for anyone who enjoys it and appreciates it as much as you and I do, like don't lose track of that. Is that this isn't supposed to be easy, and it may feel easy at times, but know that that will change very quickly.
Yeah, very true.
Until next time, Chris, Dave, we are done.